Hey everyone, welcome back to FF Squared. You got myself, Prue Patel, with our co-host Jesse, and today we have a guest from all the way from UK, Luis. Introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name's Lewis. From the UK, as Prue just said, I'm a writer and do a few shows over at 5 Yard Rush, which is a big channel over here in the UK for fantasy football. I've got my own YouTube channel as well. There hasn't been too much going on in that because we moved house around like 2 months ago. So it's my first show in a little while, and yeah, it's just great to be on with you guys.
Yeah, glad to have you on. What's your favorite NFL team?
I'm a Minnesota Vikings fan. It was amazing. I got to see him play live last year in London as well. We had
Nice.
a bit of drama.
All right, Luis. I think we're having a little bit of buffering issue with your audio feed there.
It seems like it.
Hello?
Yep.
Yeah, there you are.
And I think we're buffering. There seems to be a slight buffer with your connection there, Luis. But in the meantime, I'm going to go play our disclaimer, and hopefully on the other side of the disclaimer, we have a proper connection.
Please note that the information provided in this podcast is for educational, entertainment, and informational purposes only. It should not be considered as financial advice, and we strongly recommend that you consult with a licensed financial advisor or professional before making any financial decisions based on the information provided in this podcast.
Hey, Luis. I don't know if you've seen any other podcasts, but we try to mingle in a little bit of future finances with this, so we had to play that disclaimer. You don't want to be sued.
Yeah, of course not. Of course not.
Right. So yeah, this week we're going to be talking about call options and put options, but in terms of fantasy football player. And before we jump into the fantasy football side, I kind of wanted to take a little bit quick introduction and kind of talk about options in the stock market, just to get everyone's mind flowing, and linking it back to the fantasy football. So a lot of people know that in the stock market, you buy a stock at some dollars and it either goes up or down. But sometimes you have to pay $50 a stock. Well, the business-minded people came up with this thing called option buying. And instead of buying $50, you buy a $3 option. And you either bet that, the stock is going to go up or down. And then there's usually a time frame with it. So if you think Apple stock is going to go up by next week, you buy a call. And if you think it's going to go down, you buy a put. So that's essentially what it is it's you buying the increase or decrease in the stock, and you're not buying the actual stock. So you're either betting that the stock's going to go up or it's going to go down. This was sort of made very famous back in 2008 when a lot of people sorted the housing market. And since then, with the advent of like apps like Robinhood and whatnot, it's becoming very popular. But if you're a retail investor and you don't know what you're doing, it is a very risky way of investing. But this applies to fantasy football in one-on-one. And what really got me thinking about this was last year in 2022, Jesse, he was tooting the horn about, in the summer, sell J.K. Dobbins in the short term and then buy him again and for the long term when his price declines, when he doesn't play games for the Ravens or he's, playing with an injury. So essentially what Jesse was doing was he was putting out calls and puts on J.K. Dobbins. So when we talk about this in our finance podcast next Tuesday. We'll go a little bit deeper into what a call is and what a put is, but this is sort of what we're thinking about with this episode is what are the players that we think are overvalued right now and we think they're going to decline. We're putting a put option on that player. We're saying sell them now to rebuy them in 3-4 months at a lower price. So, Luis, we'll go with your player first.
Yeah, let's go. I mean, it's firstly, that's such an interesting way of putting it. Like, I've got no idea with the stock market and things like that. But my guy, as you can see on the screen, is George Pickens. So the main reason for me he's a sell, you're probably gonna want at least the first round pick at the moment for him, if not more. And Kenny Pickett isn't the most reliable quarterback. We've seen that last season. There's too many question marks. Will he be any better this year? What's going to happen with him? His Pickens' ADP is higher than Deontay Johnson. Now, Deontay Johnson is a volume hog. We've seen that 147 targets last year with no touchdowns. Chances of that happening again? 0. I think he will score at least one touchdown this year. But Pickens finished as the wide receiver 39, just over 800 yards on the year, which ain't bad. I wouldn't be surprised if he's very similar this season. And naturally, with the addition of Allen Robinson, obviously Pat Freiermuth there for the money sort of shots, the end zone targets, red zone targets, things like that. Take the first now, because with the emergence of other sophomores and even some rookies, there's 3 rookies above him in ADP, wide receiver only, by FFPC. And for me, he's just going to decline in value in Dynasty, definitely, between now and the end of the season, kind of. I think you can sell him for the most as you can, sort of now, maybe a bit closer to the season. But that value will drop. And the talent's there. The talent is there. But when he becomes the number 1 target in Pittsburgh, that's when you want him. So you can buy him low towards the end of the season, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Luis, right? It's Pittsburgh Steelers, right? I mean, Mike Tomlin is a really good head coach, and I think he knows that to win games this year, it's going to be, the defense, then it's going to be the run game, and then it's going to be play action passes from the run game. So the passing volume is, it's not going to increase by any margin. And if it does increase, it's going to be a very, very small margin. So I agree that, Pickens, his floor is going to be very, very low. He's a better best ball target than redraft or dynasty. And I agree with you. I think, there's a path to him becoming the wide receiver 1 for Pittsburgh. Where do you see his value dropping to, and where does he become a buy?
See, where I think he'll have very similar production to as he did last season, which was a solid campaign, but it will probably drop to around a 2nd round pick, like not too much. But I'm buying that all day long. And Pittsburgh, if they have to upgrade a quarterback because Pickett is not the guy, we'll see that this season. For me, there's too many question marks at the moment. And they want to upgrade a quarterback by going after a vet. They've got an easy out on Deontay Johnson's contracts after 2023. He's only in contract for 2024 anyway. So eventually Pickens will be a wide receiver 1. But in 2 wide receiver sets, there's no saying he's even going to be on the field this season. For me, the value is only going to go one way. But towards the end of the year, if you can get him for a 2nd round pick, absolutely smash that.
Jesse, are you selling or buying Pickens?
So if you follow me at all, I've been anti-George Pickens since the moment the hype train started last year. I am a target share truther. So yeah, once he started making those highlight reel catches, I was like, dude, sell him immediately. Last year, I flipped him straight up for Chris Godwin. I was happy to do that. because Godwin's actually a good wide receiver and a target hog, which is kind of what we're hoping Pickens becomes. But realistically, like I just don't see him overtaking Deontay Johnson. And if you want to dive deep into the stats, Pat Freiermuth with Kenny Pickett was actually the number 2 like wide receiver on the team, technically, like his targets per out run, yards, like stuff like that. So there is a case where Pickens doesn't even out target Pat Freiermuth this year. So I'm 100% on board with this. Like I see his value only going down. So if you could take that first round pick, like Lewis was talking about, take the first round pick now, and then you could buy into someone with difference making production. So yeah, 100% on the sell George Pickens train. Like I don't think that's gonna change for me anytime soon until that value comes down.
Yeah, I think Luis with the first candidate in Pickens. I think you made the right option and you put a put on Pickens. And if his value drops to the bottom of 2024 second round, then he becomes an instant buy because he does have the talent and there's a clear path to wide receiver 1.
Yeah, it's all about what happens with Deontay at the end of the day, isn't it? But yeah,
absolutely.
I think another wide receiver that I actually am putting a put option on is Michael Pittman, right? We've seen that he's been successful in the NFL. We know he's got talent and he can be a target hog. The reason I am putting a put option on Michael Pittman is you want to sell him now because he's tied to a rookie running back and a rookie head coach. And I was listening to a podcast by JJ Jacarison where he did a study about rookie quarterbacks and how it impacts their skill players. And the percentage of wide receivers posting a wide receiver 1 or even a wide receiver 2 campaign with a rookie quarterback was minimum. I think he had 16% of wide receivers tied to a rookie quarterback had a wide receiver 2 campaign. So there's a likelihood chance that Michael Pittman is more of a wide receiver 3 in 2023 than he is a wide receiver 2. So it's a clear case. It's you take the risky asset and you sell it for a low end 2024 1 or a high 2024 second. And I think mid season, come like September, October, you may be able to get him for a low 2024 second. So I think, going into 2023, I am selling Pittman and then trying to reacquire Pittman shares mid-season for a fraction of a cost.
That's a great call. I'm fully on board with that. And also, he's also dealing with a mobile quarterback who's going to take pass attempts out of the offense on top of that. I love Anthony Richardson. Like, he's like my guy, but it's more a singularity thing where he's going to be the focal point. I very much worry about his wide receiver, like Pittman. It scares me for Pittman.
So it's a funny one because I see exactly where you're coming from, and it's a really interesting stat you brought up from JJ. But for me, Pittman is the only guy on that offense outside of Jonathan Taylor that I'm trusting this year. When I have to put someone in my lineup, Michael Pittman or Jonathan Taylor are the only Colts I'll be starting physically with that's not in best ball. So maybe take a punt on Jelani Woods in best ball or something like that. But there is no competition for targets whatsoever. He's going to see 150 targets easily. And I don't know. I'm weary. I think I'd hold at the moment.
Yeah, if you're definitely not getting the value, definitely hold Pittman. But my thing is, even if he sees 150 targets, it could be a Deontay Johnson case where the touchdowns don't come, right? Because now the touchdowns are Anthony Richardson, Jonathan Taylor, and then maybe Pittman in that order. So I think his stats are capped due to the touchdown regression that's coming Pittman's way.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like, I'm 100% with you, Lewis. Like, if I'm going to be starting a Colt, like, of any of the receiving options, it's going to be Pittman. I just don't see the upside case personally for him. I would be shocked if he gets 150 targets. Like, I just don't see them passing that much. And he's not a truly elite target hog. Like, he's that borderline guy where he's really good, but I wouldn't consider him elite. So if he gets 150 targets, then yeah, like I think you'll be very happy with him. I don't know if he's going to see that many targets, honestly.
I mean, I think the main guy that's going to be affected from a PPR sense is Jonathan Taylor. I think because being with a mobile quarterback now, his PPR usage is going to affect him. But the ADP reflects that at the moment anyway, I think.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
It's true. Yeah, and Pittman right now is going ahead of guys like Deontay Johnson and Terry McLaurin and whatnot, and who I think have a much higher floor into 2023. Long term, I definitely want Pittman shares. But if you can, fetch a high 2024 second, go get it.
Different.
Next, we got our Jesse's guy.
Of course, right? Me fading another Seahawk. So my whole issue with Kenneth Walker is he's a terrible receiver, and he proved that last year. His yard per route run were 0.85. According to the 33rd team edge, that was 101st among running backs in the NFL last year. Like, that is god-awful. His target rate was 17%. That's not good for a running back. Like, you want guys pushing up into 26%. So realistically, when he was running routes, he was not efficient, and he was not seeing like targets on a route basis. The issue is they brought in JSN. That's going to take more passes away from the running backs. And they brought in Zach Charbonnet, and that's going to take away his total share of the pie in that offense. Like, the offense is going to be great. It's going to be one of the better offenses of the NFL. So he could run hot on touchdowns, but realistically, in round 3 of like startups, and I'm comparing him to guys who are going in that same range, like, I want everybody ahead of him. Like, I'll trade him straight up for Tua, like, give me Diggs, Kyle Pitts, all those guys in that range. Like, you can move for Tyreek Hill for a team that's like aging veteran, Mark Andrews, an elite tight end. There's all these guys in that range who I'm much, much more confident in. I just don't know with Walker. Like, he's a very like a boom bust running back. And I know everyone's quoted the JJ Zacharyson, like he had the lowest success rate among running backs with 100 carries or more. So like he was very boom bust, which is the type of running back he is. It's just interesting. I don't see with him. So at that elite cost of a 3rd round startup pick, which is very expensive, I'm going to move him into an asset I have much more confidence in, and fade him for this year. If his price drops to say like the 5th round, I'm much more interested in that because that's where Javonte's going type range, and that's I could stomach. But we're paying 3rd round startup costs. Like, I'm not doing that. It's a tough case for him to be an elite difference making asset this year from a running back, and I treat running backs in short windows. I get it, he's young, but I only treat them in 2 to 3 year windows. So I would much more just pivot into other players I'm 100% more confident than I am in Kenneth Walker this year.
So, Luis, who are you trading Walker for? Like, it's a smash accept.
I think if you offered me Ramondre, I'd definitely, if it was like for like at the position, I'd definitely take Ramondre over Kenneth Walker. You see, the thing that scares me, because I've got a few bits of Walker in best ball on DraftKings, but he's going like a round after than he's in Dynasty, right?
Yeah.
On DraftKings anyway. So I have got some bits in best ball, but can I physically? It's a strange one. If you got him on your roster, you have to start him, and that's why I'm not drafting him, because it's scary. Charbonnet is very, very talented, and he's a strong runner too. They've added a serious competitor into that backfield. Right. And I think the gap between he was my RB3 but coming out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the gap was a lot closer for me between him and Gibbs than it was for a lot of people. On a film basis, sorry. Obviously Gibbs' numbers, and he's going to be a PPR dream, but Charbonnet is a very, very good running back.
Like that's and they even there was a post today from Greg Bell talking about the Seahawks, who he covers. He's a local reporter for the Seahawks, talking about the Seahawks love what they saw to Charbonnet in like OTAs, and they want to get him on the field and involve him. So like we've seen enough smoke about the Seahawks talking about Charbonnet on top of the 2nd round draft capital Like he's going to be involved. I think worst case for Walker, it's like a 50-50 split. And that's still like he's usable, but he's just not going to be a difference maker for you. And that's my whole issue with it. Like if I'm paying that premium cost and you're not giving me value above replacement or war, like I'm not interested. So if he moves down, I'll be interested. The price should come down. It probably will. But at the moment, it's too expensive for me.
Yeah, and I think this was like a month ago, and I saw someone mention it. And when was the last time the Seattle Seahawks had their RB1 week 1 be their RB1 week 14? Right? So
it might have been Chris Carson quite a few years ago, but yeah, it's been a minute.
Right, and like Jesse said, there's enough smokes with Charbonnet where I could see Kent Walker being a really good running back the first 2 to 3 weeks, and then just declining after that as Charbonnet starts, eating away at the opportunities.
Yeah, it's interesting. You could look at certain stats for him. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go on. Carry on.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like based on his stat profile, if you look at it, like his success rate was 41st out of 42nd qualified running backs. DVOA was 38 out of 42 running backs. His EPA per attempt, he was 26 out of 42 like running backs. Rushing yards per attempt, the rushing yards over expectation per attempt, 21st. His best grade, he was like 11th in PFF rushing grade. So it's pretty boom bust with Walker, and like all the stats kind of show that. So that's more my concern with him too. Like we just don't know how good of a running back he technically is either.
Yeah, and I was gonna add to the boom bust side of it, recency bias plays a big part in fantasy football players, what they're doing, right? And Walker ended the year quite hot.
Yep.
If you had him on the team and you was in the playoffs, then you probably stood a good chance of getting to the championship. Like he had a good end to the year, and that's what a lot of people. That's why he's at RB7. You know what I mean? Like that's why he's going as that, because people are buying into his back end of the year.
Yeah, I think he had 3 out of his last 4 games. He had over 100 total yards, and people saw saw those big plays. They just kind of ignored the plays where he was like stuck behind the line of scrimmage. But like he had a lot of big plays, and that's what people remember because he's a fun, explosive running back, and those guys kind of stick with you because you see it on tape and he just takes off. He's like on a different speed than most players do. So that's the kind of guy that people love to draw to.
Here's a scenario. If you got offered J.K. Dobbins straight up for Walker, are you taking that trade?
Not at the moment.
J.K. Dobbins.
Not right now, but I think you could get something, either some picks or a wide receiver as well as Dobbins for Walker. And in that case, I'm smashing. If Dobbins stays healthy in this new Ravens offense, because it's going to be completely different now with Monken involved in play calling, things like that. And I think Dobbins is going to be a sneaky one this year to well outperform his ADP anyway.
Yeah, I think Dobbins is a better overall running back, and now he's healthy. So I fully expect him to actually have a better year than Walker. It's just, given their market values right now, I would want some type of plus added on. Like, give me something on top, and yeah, I'd be fine with that.
So that's exactly it, right? If you want to be a league winner, you just got to go find a Dobbins owner, dangle Walker in front of him, and get Dobbins and maybe even like a Godwin or Deontay Johnson added to that. Or even the Green Bay Packers wide receiver, Reed, you could also get. And you get 2 assets that will be increasing in value in 2023 versus Walker. So, I think that's one of the trades I would, go and start making trades for is Dobbins plus for Walker right now.
Mm-hmm.
So those were our 3 candidates. Luis, can you think of any other honorable mention players that you can think of that might fit this profile?
Ooh, it's a bit of a hard one, isn't it? Off the top of my head there, but
put you on the spot.
Sure, there's plenty. Yeah, there's plenty of guys out there. Maybe even I'm not sure right now. But yeah, there's plenty of guys out there for sure.
Yeah. The one that comes to mind might be ETN. ETN might be a little bit too pricey at the moment.
Yeah, I would
Especially with
rather.
Calvin Ridley.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. Sorry about that.
No. I was just gonna say with Calvin Ridley coming back and his opportunities of catching passes, ETN might be in the same lane as Walker.
He is, but he was one of the
Same
better
offense,
actual
actually.
rushers. Yeah.
Maybe Evan Engram.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Those targets really aren't going to be there for ETN either. And Jay Moyer, the guy on Twitter, he pointed this out last year where he's like, his profile is pretty fraudulent, but he was actually the guy we kind of hoped Walker would be, where he's a really like good rusher of the football, and he was one of the better rushers last year. So I'd just rather have ETN honestly, like over Walker, because I know he's going to be a good rusher. I'm not 100% convinced with Walker yet. And they are back to back in ADP almost. Yeah, I think
Pretty
so.
much. I think so. So I know in the future we're going to do a complete opposite topic where we're buying low on players and then we're going to be selling them high. Can you think of a player that you're buying low right now that you would sell high once the season starts?
Yeah.
Putting you guys on the spot. Come on.
Yeah.
I seem to have lost you guys there for a minute.
Oh, no worries.
No worries.
Yeah, I'll list a few. Deontay, he's super cheap. He's one guy I've been targeting. I just don't get it. Marquise Brown, like I know I said I'm out on Marquise Brown, but he's going in like the late 7th, 8th round. I'll be in all on that. If you want a cheaper tight end, like you can go for Darren Waller. He's dirt cheap for contenders. There's a lot of guys in that, like DeAndre Hopkins is actually the technically guy I want to buy the most of all those veterans because he's quote unquote old, even though he's had a 29% target share. People are acting like he's just dust. I don't get it. He's still really good. So wherever he goes, he's going to see targets, even if it's Tennessee. I'm not worried. I'll take DeAndre Hopkins on any contending team, and just ride him in the sunset.
Yeah, those are good players, Luis. So we're doing the opposite, right? Buying low.
Yeah, Chris Godwin, 100%. I've been mopping up a lot of him this year. Chris Godwin. Did you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. We got Chris Godwin.
Sorry,
He's actually one of the players on. That's fine.
That's all right.
Yeah, definitely. Chris Godwin all day long. It's almost like people have forgot that how talented he is.
Yeah, it's the whole Baker Mayfield stank. They're just rubbing on the entire offense that scaring everybody away. So you can get Godwin for pretty cheap right now. Like I'm 100% on board with that. And then when the situation improves, it's going to improve at some point. Like he will be really like valued again. Yeah, we were talking about it like a couple weeks ago. Actually, like we thought that was a good buy as well.
Yeah, and I might say Barks, and that's until Hopkins gets picked up by the Titans.
Yeah.
But until then, Barks is a good. Even if Hopkins gets traded to Tennessee, Barks' value is going to go down. I'm buying that. Hopkins is not going to be there at 24, 25. Barks is eventually going to get his wide receiver targets.
Yeah, I'll also say if Devin Cook goes to Miami, people should buy Devon A-Chain. Like he's going to get really cheap because people are going to be terrified of Cook. But like we already saw the decline from Cook, so he's not the same guy he was. So even if it's not this year, like you can look forward to next year, and like A-Chain could technically like take over if Cook shows up. So that's somebody to keep an eye on too.
I think another running back that's far too cheap at the moment, and you're only going to see an increase, especially the start of the season, because he's got a rookie quarterback, Miles Sanders.
That's a good pick.
I like that.
I'm definitely in on Sanders, and if I'm contending, I'm buying Sanders everywhere. But I think his long-term view in Dynasty might be a little bit not favorable. I think he's getting to a point where he's more James Conner, where he needs to land in positions where he's the clear RB1. But like you said, he is pretty devalued.
Yeah, it could be an 8-week flip. You know, you pick him up now, and until Bryce Young finds his feet and starts working the offense in different ways, flip him then. Sell him while he's hot. Do you know what I mean? Because you ain't going to be holding on to him long term.
That's a good point. I think a lot of fantasy players, dynasty fantasy players, when they see the first 5 weeks of an RB going off, they forget to go and trade him, right? Because they're thinking it's going to last the whole season, but it rarely does.
Yeah, for sure. But at least,
Well,
yeah.
I think we identified 3 great sell high candidates that will see their values decline, and then mid-season, I think that's when they become a buying window for them. And I think it was a great discussions on buy low, sell high. And Luis, thanks for jumping on. Sorry for the connection issues, but we love to have you on. And tell people where they can find you on social media.
Yeah, so you can follow me on Twitter at Elvines1. The tag is on my name or there on the screen. But yeah, thanks for having me on. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and we look forward to having you back on the show in the future.
Definitely.
So until next week, everyone. See you.
This podcast is sponsored by The League Winners. Check them out at theleaguewinners.com.